Imagine someone invents a machine that can just print solid gold. But
Right.
there's a catch, you know. The machine fits on a standard flash drive, and the blueprints to build it were just posted on some anonymous message board for literally anyone with an internet connection to download.
Internet at all.
Yeah. So how long before the entire global economy just completely collapses? I mean, are we talking weeks,
Luke's
days?
honestly probably hours.
Right. And that is the exact scenario we are looking at today. But, instead of a machine that prints gold, we're talking about the explosive, completely unprecedented acceleration of artificial intelligence and synthetic biology.
It completely shatters the illusion that we are in control. I mean,
Yeah.
historically, when humanity built something incredibly powerful, there was always a physical limitation.
Like a failsafe.
Exactly. A failsafe, a geographical boundary, or, quite literally a plug you could pull if things went terribly wrong.
Yeah.
And that physical limitation is just evaporating.
Which is exactly why we're plunging into today's deep dive. We are exploring the core insights from this deeply unsettling and honestly brilliant book called The Coming Wave by Mustafa Suleyman.
It's a heavy one.
It really is. We're going to map out the terrifying and yet exhilarating reality of these emerging technologies and figure out how they are fundamentally rewriting global power dynamics.
And our goal today is to help you, the person listening right now, understand the stakes here. Because the defining challenge of the 21st century is no longer about, inventing new technology.
Right, that's already happening.
Exactly. The innovation is already happening on autopilot. The ultimate challenge of our lifetime is figuring out how to actually survive it.
Yeah, we're going to break down how this wave will just blindside governments, alter the trajectory of global security, and completely change how you manage your own personal workflows. So, okay, let's unpack this.
Let's do it.
Because to understand why that proverbial big red pause button is gone, we have to look at the nature of the technology itself. AI isn't just another tech upgrade, right? It's not like, oh, the new iPhone is out.
No, not at all.
Suleiman frames it as an omni-tool. It's this general-purpose technology that improves literally every other industry, system, and process all at the exact same time.
It acts as a universal multiplier. I mean, when you look back at massive historical breakthroughs, take the steam engine, for example.
Sure.
It absolutely revolutionized transportation and factory production. But the steam engine didn't possess the ability to, look at a chemistry lab and discover a new pharmaceutical compound.
Oh, yeah, it's just an engine.
Yeah, it couldn't optimize a city's legal contracts or balance a budget.
Right.
But AI does exactly that. It accelerates automation, decision-making, and the scientific method itself across every single domain concurrently.
Okay, I hear that, but let me push back on this framing a little bit. Because people always compare AI to the discovery of electricity. You hear it at every single tech conference. AI is the new electricity.
Oh, absolutely. It's the standard pitch.
Right. And sure, electricity decentralized power and touched every industry. But electricity didn't wake up on a Tuesday and invent better electricity.
That's a great point.
AI is actively writing code to make faster, more efficient AI. We have a technology that iterates on its own underlying science. So is it really fair to compare this to historical patterns like electricity or the steam engine? Or are we just standing in completely unmapped territory here?
What's fascinating here is that your pushback hits on the exact reason why this is described as a unique wave. The electricity comparison actually completely misses the danger.
How so?
Well, electricity is passive. It is a dumb current that just powers the tools that humans use to invent things.
Right. It doesn't think.
Exactly. But AI is active. It is an intellectual collaborator. When a technology can iterate on its own design, the feedback loop closes and the acceleration becomes exponential, not linear.
It builds itself.
Yes. Historically, human progress was always bottlenecked by our own processing power. How fast a human brain could read, test, and synthesize information. But that bottleneck is just dissolving now.
And because these models are getting so much cheaper to run, that power isn't just locked up in some multi-billion-dollar corporate lab somewhere. It's trickling down to the consumer level basically instantly.
Tremendous leverage used to require massive capital, right?
Yeah.
Giant factories, thousands of employees.
Yeah, nation-state level stuff.
Now, a small group or even just a single individual with a laptop can wield the kind of impact that used to be strictly reserved for those massive governments or corporations.
That is the ultimate decentralization of power in action.
And for you listening, this is where it really hits your daily life. If you integrate these omni tools into your workflow early, your personal adaptability just skyrockets.
Oh, totally. Imagine you are a solo entrepreneur. You don't just have, like, software that schedules your emails anymore.
Right, you have an agent.
Exactly. You have an
But
agent that reads market sentiment, writes the code for a brand new app feature, tests it on 10,000 simulated users, and then deploys it to a live server, all while you are just sitting there drinking your morning coffee.
you are a team of one operating with the leverage of 50.
Yeah, but see, that same leverage is terrifying when it's applied maliciously.
Oh, absolutely.
If one person in their kitchen can do the work of 50 software engineers, what happens when a bad actor decides to do the work of a national bioweapons lab?
That is the nightmare scenario, which brings us to the pacing problem.
Right.
If technology is handing godlike power to individuals instantly, how on earth do the institutions that are supposed to manage society keep up? Suleyman calls this the exponential gap.
The exponential gap. Break that down for me.
It's a devastatingly simple math problem, honestly. Technology is evolving exponentially. The curve goes straight up.
Like a rocket.
Right. But governments, regulatory bodies, traditional laws, they evolve linearly. A piece of legislation takes years to draft, debate, amend, and finally pass.
Yeah, if it passes at all.
Exactly. So by the time a regulatory body actually understands how to govern a specific algorithm, that algorithm is already 5 generations obsolete.
I was trying to picture this gap, and honestly, it's not just like driving a fast car on a slow road. It feels more like trying to write traffic laws for vehicles that mutate into airplanes while you're still drafting the speed limits.
That is a perfect way to put it.
The infrastructure of our society just fundamentally wasn't built for things that change this fast.
It's the institutional lag. And in this environment, rigid thinking is a massive liability. The future will ruthlessly punish slow adaptation.
Which means, for you, the listener, being adaptable isn't just some soft skill you put on a resume for a job interview anymore. It is a literal survival mechanism.
You have to keep updating.
You cannot rely on a static college degree and expect it to carry you for 40 years. But okay, let me play devil's advocate for a second.
Go for it.
Haven't governments always lagged behind tech? I mean, think about the early internet. The law was notoriously slow to regulate e-commerce, data privacy, social media. We had a gap there too, and society didn't completely collapse. So why is this current exponential gap supposedly so much more dangerous?
This raises an important question, and it really comes down to the nature of the leverage we were just talking about. The internet, for all its massive disruptive power, primarily dealt with the movement of information.
Right, it democratized data.
Exactly, it moved bits around. But this coming wave AI, acting as the engine for things like synthetic biology and advanced robotics, it democratizes action in the physical and biological world.
Okay, stop right there. Unpack synthetic biology for me.
Yeah.
Because that sounds like, I don't know, sci-fi jargon. What are we actually talking about here?
Sure. Think of it as treating DNA like computer code.
Like programming life.
Literally. Instead of breeding plants or animals over generations, you just sit at a laptop, type out a specific genetic sequence, hit print, and a desktop machine chemically synthesizes that actual DNA or protein.
Wait, really? Just prints it?
Yes, and AI makes mapping and writing that genetic code infinitely easier and faster.
Oh, wow. So we're moving from hacking computers to literally hacking biology. That is a massive distinction. Information versus physical action.
Precisely. A lag in internet regulation meant we got spam emails, identity theft, and toxic social media echo chambers.
Which is bad, obviously.
Highly damaging, yes. But a lag in regulating synthetic biology or autonomous AI agents means a lone actor could engineer a novel pathogen from their basement.
That's terrifying.
Or unleash a digital virus that shuts down a national power grid without any human intervention. The scale and speed of this specific wave mean that the societal lag creates unprecedented fragility.
Because the blast radius is just so much bigger.
Exactly. When everything accelerates at once, the margin for error just vanishes.
Here's where it gets really interesting. Because if the margin for error is essentially zero, and the gap between tech speed and government speed is insurmountable, our entire societal priority has to pivot, right?
It has to.
We can no longer just treat innovation as this unalloyed good. The race isn't to build the tech anymore. The race is to contain it. The crisis of containment.
The premise here is stark. Humanity knows how to build advanced systems. That's a solved problem. The unsolved problem, the one that will define our entire century, is controlling them.
Containing the wave.
Yes. If these technologies escape meaningful oversight, the fallout won't just be an economic downturn. It will destabilize global security at a foundational level.
And this isn't just abstract geopolitics. For you listening, think about how you run your own projects or your business.
Right.
Scaling up any system, whether it's your customer base, your personal ambitions, or an automated workflow without building control mechanisms and safeguards in tandem is just a recipe for absolute chaos.
Because leverage always amplifies risk. Scaling blindly creates fragility.
But, reading through Suleyman's arguments, the idea of containing this feels borderline impossible.
It's definitely a monumental task.
It's not like trying to lock up a physical asset.
Yeah.
The best analogy I could come up with is that trying to contain AI is like trying to regulate a mathematical equation.
It's pretty accurate.
Right. Once the formula is discovered, how do you erase it from the public's mind? Like trying to put water back into a burst pipe while the pressure keeps going up.
You're touching on the ultimate paradox of the coming wave. Traditional containment worked because of physical scarcity.
Give me an example.
Think about nuclear material. Uranium is geographically rare. It's incredibly expensive to mine, and enriching it requires massive, highly visible facility.
Sure. You can point a satellite at a country and physically see them building a centrifuge facility.
Right, you can track the physical footprint, but digital tech is the polar opposite. It's completely borderless. You can take the weights of a highly capable open-source AI model and email them to 1 million people in 3 seconds.
Let's pause there. Let's clarify what those weights actually are, because I think that's crucial for the listener to grasp.
Good point. When an AI company spends months and literally hundreds of millions of dollars teaching an AI to understand language, logic, and reasoning.
Which takes massive supercomputers.
Right. But the final result, the mathematical brain of the AI, is distilled down into a single downloadable file. Those are the weights.
So all that money and hardware just produces a file.
Exactly. And once someone has that file, they have the AI.
Exactly. So how do you contain a file? I mean, you can't put a padlock on a download link that's mirrored across 10,000 servers in a dozen different countries.
You can't, which is why containment cannot just be a software solution. It has to happen at the architectural level.
The hardware.
If the software is a ghost, you have to lock down the haunted house. The hardware. We are talking about massive compute clusters.
So we target the physical machines. But what does a compute cluster actually look like in this context? Because people hear computers and think laptops.
Yeah, we aren't talking about a few laptops. To build the absolute most advanced, cutting-edge AI models, the ones that pose the truly existential risks, you need tens of thousands of highly specialized microchips.
Housed together.
Housed in warehouses the size of multiple football fields, consuming the electrical output of a small city. You cannot hide a supercomputer like that.
Okay, I see. So containment isn't some magical software firewall. It's a physical choke point.
Exactly.
You track the microchips. You regulate who is allowed to buy 100,000 highly advanced processors.
Yes, you build a web of friction. You restrict the hardware, you build AI models that are fundamentally aligned to refuse dangerous commands, and you mandate independent auditing of those giant server farms.
But even with all of that, I mean, it's still highly fragile. If one single engineer smuggles a model out on a hard drive, or if an open source community figures out how to run a really powerful model on just consumer-grade hardware.
The fragility returns immediately.
It sounds like containment isn't a problem we just solve and walk away from. It's a continuous, exhausting, high-stakes management process forever.
It is. And that harsh reality leads us directly to the survival strategy. If containment is this porous, and our institutions are structurally too slow to manage it natively, how do we actually survive?
Right.
The answer boils down to prioritizing wisdom over raw power.
And the text gets incredibly practical about what that wisdom looks like. It's deep, long-term thinking, and above all, it's global cooperation.
Absolutely essential.
No single nation and no single tech monopoly can manage these emerging technologies in a vacuum. Competition is amazing for driving innovation, sure.
It got us here.
But unchecked cutthroat competition in the realm of existential risk is literal suicide. If companies or countries engage in a race to the bottom on safety just to be the first to launch an Omni tool, the fallout is going to hit everyone.
Global cooperation isn't some utopian feel-good ideal here. It is a hard, pragmatic necessity. The most advanced future actually requires the most mature cooperation in human history.
And for you, as an individual navigating this, that wisdom starts with extreme ownership. It means demanding transparent safeguards in the software you buy.
You have to know what you're using.
It means not blindly hooking an AI agent up to your bank account or your client database just because it's fast and convenient. You have to stop and consider the ripple effects, the security vulnerabilities. You basically have to build personal friction into your own systems.
Unprecedented power demands unprecedented responsibility all the way down to the end user.
So, what does this all mean? Because I look at the current geopolitical landscape, and I'm sorry, but I am just drowning in skepticism here.
I don't blame you.
Well, we can barely negotiate basic international trade tariffs. We consistently fail to hit the most rudimentary climate emission targets. How realistic is it to expect the entire planet to come together and enforce these invisible, deeply complex hardware and software bottlenecks?
Especially when there's so much money involved.
Exactly. The winner of the AI race stands to control trillions of dollars of economic leverage. Why would they ever slow down?
If we connect this to the bigger picture, your skepticism is completely warranted. The historical track record for altruistic global cooperation is, frankly, dismal.
Theory.
However, there is a precedent for cooperation driven by terror.
Terror!
Yes, mutually assured destruction during the Cold War. The stakes of nuclear annihilation were so absolute that adversarial nations who utterly despise each other were forced to invent entirely new frameworks of cooperation out of thin air.
That's a fascinating comparison.
They'd build red line hotlines,
Yep.
they signed non-proliferation treaties, they created the International Atomic Energy Agency.
Oh, the IAEA, the agency that literally sends independent inspectors into foreign countries to physically audit their nuclear enrichment facilities.
Exactly. Think about how crazy that is. They allowed international auditors to walk right into their most secure top-secret facilities because the alternative, a miscalculation leading to global annihilation, was unthinkable.
The incentives just aligned out of sheer self-preservation.
Yes. So Lehman's argument is that the coming wave presents a similar, though much more complex, existential threshold. If an unaligned superintelligence gets loose, or a synthetic bioweapon spreads globally, it doesn't stop at the border of the country that invented it.
It doesn't care about borders.
Right. It destroys the entire playing field.
So we aren't relying on world leaders to suddenly become like better, more moral people. We're relying on them to realize that unchecked competition in this specific arena is literally a suicide pact. It's cooperation born out of absolute terror.
It is a dark catalyst, I admit, but it might be the only force strong enough to mandate the kind of international auditing and hardware tracking that this wave demands.
That is a staggering reality to process. Let's take a breath and retrace the ground we've covered today because it is immense.
It is a lot to take in.
We started by looking at the Omni tool, how AI and synthetic biology are fundamentally decentralizing power, giving individuals the leverage of entire corporations.
Which brought us to the exponential gap, the terrifying realization that our linear institutions are entirely unequipped to govern technologies that mutate and accelerate daily.
Leading us to the absolute necessity of containment, moving our entire focus away from just building the tech to actually tracking the physical hardware and building bottlenecks to prevent catastrophe.
And ultimately arriving at the survival strategy, acknowledging that global incentives must align out of mutual self-preservation. We must cultivate societal wisdom at the exact same pace we are cultivating technological power.
It's heavy, it's daunting, but before we wrap up, I want to leave you, the listener, with a final thought to ponder, a different angle on all this.
Let's hear it.
We've spent this entire deep dive looking at AI as the overwhelming force threatening to break our slow-moving governance. But if AI truly is an omni tool, if it really can accelerate and optimize every single system it touches, could it also accelerate our own societal wisdom?
Oh, wow. That is a genuinely compelling pivot.
Right. Could the very technology that is causing this exponential gap actually be the exact tool we use to close it?
I mean,
Well, if we can use an AI model to fold complex proteins in seconds, or spot vulnerabilities in millions of lines of code, could we use it to model flawless global treaties?
right. Or optimize supply chains for hardware tracking.
Exactly. Could we task it to design architectural containment webs and auditing systems that the human brain alone could just never conceptualize? Perhaps this wave, for all its terrifying destructive potential, inherently provides the exact materials we need to build its own breakwater.
Using a superintelligence to design a foolproof safety net for a superintelligence. It's a profound and honestly hopeful thought to carry forward.
It really is. It brings us full circle. We don't have that big red pause button anymore. We can't put the water back in the burst pipe. The wave is already crashing over us. But maybe Just maybe, if we apply enough wisdom, we are building the exact tools we need to finally learn how to swim. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive into the coming wave. It is a complex, rapidly shifting landscape, but understanding the mechanisms behind the risk is the very first step. Keep questioning the tools you integrate, demand transparency and safeguards in the software you rely on, stay incredibly adaptable, and above all, stay ahead of the wave. Catch you next time.